Today's problem is a Mackie Thump PA speaker. It's a TH-12A that won't turn on. It's got flashing LEDs that cycle on every few seconds. Since we've got lights and it seems like the SMPS is trying to power on, our problem seems to be on the secondary. It's always a bit tricky to get these unhooked, so be careful when you're sticking your fingers in there. The board looks pretty good, nothing obviously blown. This was a used speaker, so upon inspection it did look like one of the diode packages was replaced. You can see D106 has a little bit of soldering handiwork. And the nearby capacitor is slightly singed. Figured I'd try to reflow the joints first just to see if we get lucky and it was a cold solder joint. But that didn't work, so let's try to take that part off. Testing against a known good board, I did get continuity to ground on the center pin of D106. And on diode mode I was getting different values between the two boards. To get to the bottom of the PCB, you have to take the entire heatsink off the board first and then take the PCB off the heatsink. There's a bunch of thermal paste all over the back of these. Once the PCB was off, I started testing a few of the capacitors out of circuit to see if they were working well. One of the capacitors measured 2100 microfarads, which wasn't too far out of circuit, but I couldn't find anything else obviously wrong with the board, so I decided to recap all of it. Make sure you measure the height of those diodes against the heatsink just so you leave enough room to get them flush against it. And here's where I figured out the real problem. When I was putting the PCB back on the heatsink, I noticed there was nylon washers. D106 was missing its washer and thus was grounding itself. At least the fresh caps won't hurt. Does it power on? And it's good. Rock on. So you can see here that the first set of diodes has an insulating washer underneath of the metal washer, and the second one doesn't have that insulating washer. I used some heat shrink for a temporary fix to see if that was the problem. But now that it's running, I got the nylon washers on order to fix this thing up for good.